Hello everybody and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be talking all about Halloween Kills, which of course is from one of my favorite franchises of all time and stems from my favorite movie of absolute all time. So let's get into this. So I think before we begin, it's important to remember that Halloween Kills is part of a trilogy. So the Halloween re-quel that we got in 2018 is meant to be part of a new trilogy, ending with the film Halloween Ends, which will come out next year. Halloween Kills is very much the middle piece of a trilogy and follows the traditional trilogy format. Our heroes, after getting a big win in the first chapter, are separated in this chapter and then end up losing and ending up worse than they were ever before by the end of the movie, which is a very trilogy thing to do. Despite all of the marketing suggesting otherwise, Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode is actually benched the entire film, which I like in the film. I just wish the marketing hadn't made it seem otherwise, because I think that's going to piss off some people, right? It's almost like false advertising, because in all the marketing, she's like, I'm coming for him, but she actually doesn't, she doesn't leave the building. However, I do like her arc in this film, because part of her being benched is her via other characters coming to the realization, and the audience as well coming to the realization, that Michael doesn't give a crap about her. It's never been about her. And she spent all that time bat-caving her house so she could take him out when he eventually escaped and came for her, only to realize that if somebody hadn't dropped him off there in the last movie, he never would have gone there. And it would have been a waste. And I think that's smart, because in the original movie, it wasn't about her, right? She just happens to be one of the babysitters he comes across on his rampage in 1978, but she happens to live. And Michael doesn't really give her a second thought. Much like Dr. Loomis in the original, Laurie is obsessed with Michael, but Michael could care less. All Michael does is do what he's compelled to do, which is kill and go home. He's not that complicated. However, there is another element in this film where he's like this supernatural evil force, which I think the other Halloween films do set up. And the original, via Dr. Loomis, kind of sets up as well. There's this belief that he must be something else, because he can't be treated, he can't be fixed, and he can't be reasoned with. He just does this evil stuff just because. And I think the original sequels and all the other timelines that we have of Halloween really go too far in the mythology of Michael Myers. And I think the 2018 film was smart to kind of do away with that. And I'm a little worried here because they kind of dip back into it a bit. They don't go too far, and I'm hoping it's as far as they go, but there is that side of it. I do love that they brought everybody else back for this one as well, and that the trilogy encompassing one Halloween night 40 years after his original rampage is all about all of the survivors, not just Laurie dealing with his return. Kyle Richards especially surprised me. She's one of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. As a child actress, she was, of course, Lindsay Wallace in the original Halloween. And they brought her back for this one, and I think she did actually really well. I was happy she was there, and it seems like she took it actually really seriously, which I really appreciated about her. The gay couple that has set up shop in Michael Myers' house, I half appreciated it. Because, as always, as they tend to do with LGBT characters, the representation, quote unquote, is really just a way to make fun of us at our expense, use us as jokes, use us as stereotypes, all of that stuff. And I definitely think this film is guilty of doing it. However, it doesn't go as far as normally films go to it, so I think it's a step in the right direction. And they get a bit to do here. But ultimately, I just think the representation doesn't count because of how they're used. It just makes us a joke, and I don't really appreciate that. I think true representation, if you're going to do it, would be to have one of the survivors happen to be an LGBT character and have them live or something. I don't know. But it just seems like the funny gay guys who flipped Michael Myers' house was just a funny gag storyline to have in there. And it just doesn't really do much for us as the LGBT community or this movie. The angry mob leaves me a lot of questions because I don't understand why nobody knows what Michael looks like. I know Tommy Doyle, the character in the film, mentions that he's always worn a mask. How do they know what he looks like? Because they get him confused with this other mental patient who ends up committing suicide. But I'm like, they arrested him in 1978. Did nobody put him on the news? Because it's not like he was allowed to wear his mask once he was arrested, right? And there had to have been at least a court proceeding or something that he had to have been wheeled in there for. I don't understand why nobody knows what he looks like. The podcasters in the original film were allowed to walk right up to him and interview him. Nobody else in the media has ever done that following his murders in 1978. I don't understand that. So the fact that nobody seems to know what he looks like, to me, is just absurd. And it doesn't make any sense. The hospital itself also doesn't make sense to me in the film. I don't know why they have such an issue with crowd control in the hospital. First of all, I also don't understand why they have a morgue that's just out there for everybody to walk by with bodies uncovered and all these other things. I've never seen a hospital do that. I don't know. Things like that I think I'm just supposed to ignore for some reason. But it did take me out of it, those pieces. I do like that the idea of the mob is that people can be radicalized even with good intentions. And that's a line in one of the flashbacks when we see kind of the kind of cop cover up about how Hawkins's character killed his partner and things like that, right? So on accident. But there's a line in there that says, just because you have good intentions, not everything works out. And I think it's a huge commentary on like cancel culture and things and social media in our time about how easy it is, no matter what side you're on of any issue, that it's really easy to get radicalized and become toxic. This mob mentality we have definitely translates still into our modern time. Even though we don't always physically have mobs, we definitely have some online ones all the time. And it's really concerning. And I think that this movie did a very great job of kind of physically representing that. And I liked it a lot. And I really loved the flashbacks. The flashbacks as a whole were just amazing. I wasn't sold on Dr. Loomis's voice because obviously Donald Pleasance isn't with us anymore and couldn't, return. But I loved how he looked with his stand-in and the way they did his face digitally and all that stuff. I thought that worked really well. And all the other flashbacks they did just looked like they fit with the original film so well. You could literally take the flashbacks and edit them into the original movie and it would look totally seamless. I loved it. And they included flashbacks from the actual film mixed in there. So it all just feels so seamless. And it really does make the original film feel like just one giant epilogue or prologue, I should say, to this trilogy, which is really great. I loved it so much. Judy Greer's character, I don't think she's dead. I know she ends up in a bad place at the end. I would be surprised if they actually kill. Well, I don't know. She doesn't get a lot to do in this movie, Judy Greer. So I don't know. Maybe they did kill her. But I'd be really upset if they did because I would like to see her in the final act. And I would also like to see her wear something other than that hideous Christmas sweater that they keep making her wear throughout both of these films so far. But I'm hoping she gets a little more to do and she becomes a little more badass. But it's interesting to see her and the Allison character kind of go in two different directions. with Laurie's kind of legacy when Laurie is benched and can no longer do it herself. But yeah. But anyways, I loved this movie. I think it's not perfect, of course, but I think it felt very Halloween to me, and it was a great follow-up to 2018, and I'm really excited for Halloween Ends. It was so good. I think I would give this movie at least an 8 out of 10. It was so good. Definitely go see it. And let me know what you thought of Halloween Kills in the comments below, or don't, whatever. But if you haven't hit that like button, go ahead and do that if you haven't done that already. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.